Could you kindly explain the comparative principles of the salvation in Islam and Christianity?
Right. It's a very big question you asked.
Can I translate it?
Very big indeed. But it can be, the answer can be shortened as well. The basic principle of Christian redemption is linked to a false belief that every mother who bears a child bears a sinful child. And the sin has been inherited by human race from the time of Adam, because he sinned. So ever since, all the children born to Adam and Eve and their progeny are bound to be sinful. So there has to be some Redeemer who is not sinful. This is the Pauline Christianity, unknown to Jesus Christ, unheard of from his lips. But this is the Christianity which has also infiltrated other sects of Christianity. It's no longer confined entirely to the Catholics, who are the followers of St. Paul. So the principle goes on building in this way, that every man, every child who is born is sinful. No sinful man can carry the burden of a sinful person because he himself is sinful. He has to be innocent. Now, this is a strange logic, but it goes on like this. So how could God forgive a sinful people? Because he is also just. He is absolutely just. He can never violate the dictates of justice. To forgive some sinful person without ever having punished him is, according to St. Paul, against the requirements of basic justice. God could not do it. It was unjust of him if he were to forgive them. What a dilemma for God. He wants to forgive, but it's against his justice. And the sinful humanity would continue to suffer till the end of the time, and all of them will have to be shelved into hell because they're sinful. So I think they believe, one fine morning, God thinking over this problem, like this, he said, now I've got it. I can't forgive, but my son can. So why shouldn't I shove him into hell instead? So that an innocent person takes the sins or the consequences of the sins of the sinful. So this was God's concept of absolute justice. To punish an innocent man for the sake of the sinful is the ultimate concept of God's justice according to Christianity. The Christianity of St. Paul, of course, not of Jesus Christ. So he said, all right, I'll do it. But here St. Paul gives the credit of this not to God, but to Jesus, the Son. God still was element according to him. They have sinned because Adam and Eve have sinned, so their progeny must be born sinful. Another strange concept of justice. Because somebody is blind, he must bear continuously blind children. Because somebody is deaf, he must always, and his progeny must continue to give birth to deaf children. This is the logic of St. Paul. So what can we do about it? This was the dilemma which faced God. He wanted to forgive, but the sense of justice prevented him. Then came to his aid his own son, Jesus Christ. He said, Father, you can't do something, I can. But you have to help me. You must marry a human mother. There I can't help you. You do have to do it. Please marry a human mother and have a child born out of your marriage relationship. And let me be that child. So because I will be born of your, what you call chromosomes and characters, so I would be free of sin. Now Jesus went to that length for the sake of humanity. But he forgot to realize that whenever he would be born of a human mother. And it was Eve, according to Christianity, which was responsible for the first sin, not Adam. So at best, Adam was avoided. A human husband was, no longer needed. But the human mother had to be a human mother. The one who was the prime culprit of that sin, according to Christianity. So how could that sense of justice be carried out without being violated? The just sense of justice which they attribute to God is that because a mother and a father have committed sin, so the children must be sinful. So they remove the father, but not the mother. The mother remained to be the same human mother who was initially responsible for dragging Adam into sin. So according to their philosophy, Jesus Christ had a great brain wave as Son of God of requesting him to make him be born through his marriage to a human mother. So because he would be the Son of God, in that respect, godly innocence would overwhelm the motherly sin. This is, at best, we can understand. So I would be born innocent, which is wrong. Of course, you couldn't have been born innocent from a human mother at all. So when I am born innocent, then you have a free hand to sacrifice me instead of the sinful. It will not violate the sense of justice because I will willingly offer it to you. This is the twisted logic which comes to a conclusion here. The difference between God forgiving and the difference between Jesus Christ taking up the burden of human sin on himself is this: that God could not forgive without breaking the principles of justice. Jesus could, because he would take the punishment on himself. And because he would require it himself, so God will not violate any principle of justice. If an innocent person wants to be sacrificed, let him do it. So God permitted that to happen. He said, all right, if you want to do it of your own volition, go ahead and do it. Get punished for the sin of the mankind. And from now on, after you carry the sin, burden of the sin, the mankind will be relieved of that sin. This is the concept of Christian forgiveness and Christian redemption. Right? But how would it happen? Now let's come to that. According to the New Testament, when finally this whole plan came to be realized at the end through the crucifixion. The night before, Jesus Christ, who had offered himself, kept on bitterly crying, begging God to take away this bitter cup and save me from death upon cross. The whole story crumbles down to pieces. The same Jesus who volunteered himself and resolved the problem of God, he changed his mind. When he saw death so close, no, please no, I'm sorry. Oh Father, forget about all this. I simply cannot take the suffering of death upon cross. So, oh Father, God, Father, for God's sake, remove this cup and let me live. But God said, no, once you have offered, I'm not going to change it. You like it or not? And this debate went on till the poor innocent Jesus was hung upon cross. And he kept on, no, please no. God said, no, I am going to kill you on cross. Until when he saw the last moment of death approaching, the last cry of desperation was, Eli, Eli, lema sabachthani. It was not an exclamation of the fulfillment of his dream. If crucifixion was his dream, if death upon cross was his concept of forgiveness, a concept or mechanism which he believed in for the forgiveness of mankind, then at the consummation of his hopes and dreams and desires, why did he say, Eli, Eli, lema sabachthani? So it means ultimately he died making God a cruel father. And he died for no purpose. Because the willful offering was no longer a willful offering. The whole exercise was completely frustrated. So this is the Christian concept of redemption in brief. Sorry, why I say in brief? Because I have written a book on this subject, which is Christianity, a journey from facts to fiction. There I have discussed all the possibilities rationally threadbare. And this is exactly the question of redemption which I have taken up there. So if you read that book, and if you possibly could translate it into Turkish people, and all the Turkish people who inquire from you this question, I think they will be satisfactorily answered. To conclude, all that Jesus Christ could achieve by wasting his life against his will was that the sin of man was transferred by Jesus to God himself. Because God was innocent up to that time. He never violated any principle of justice. He never showed cruelty to anybody. But by being cruel to his own son, by permitting him to be murdered while he could save him, despite hearing his cries, despite the power to save him and rescue him for the hands of the Roman Empire, he sat unconcerned and did not show any sign of mercy or justice. So in the end, what has happened? Mankind is not forgiven because no innocent person could offer his life for the sake of mankind. Jesus did not. He was innocent, but he withdrew his offer. So all that happened was God became a criminal instead of Adam and Eve. And nobody can redeem God from this crime now. Being a sinful person who killed an innocent person, even if he bear other children more after Jesus, according to that principle, all the children of God would now be sinful. So Jesus came to shut the door of redemption forever. Right? Now this is what they believe. Okay. He shut the door of Nijat for the mankind because he was innocent, but he refused to be sacrificed. And God became criminal. So all the children he would bear in future would become criminal, according to the own principle. So there is no way now that mankind could ever be forgiven. Even God cannot be forgiven now, because he is the prime, emerges as the prime culprit instead of Adam. Is this the Christianity to which they invite us to, to invite mankind to believe? Absolutely. Total hocus pocus.